Hello, I'm Eagle. Eagle Gardens one on Instagram. And this is fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 837. Got a returning awesome guest this evening, Mr. Mark Leafhill, Vancouver Island Home Growers Guild. How you doing, my friend? You want to tell us how you're doing and of course where they can find you?
They can find me on over at Instagram at the Home Growers Guild is usually the one I look at. So Vancouver Island Home Growers Guild. It's a mouthful. We put it in there, it will pop up, and that's yeah. Yeah, it's great to be back on your show, Eagle. And like I say, it's always kind of like checking in on home with being from the Midwest myself. So I know I've told you that a bunch, but yeah, it's an honor.
I appreciate having you back. That's for sure. What the heck are you smoking on tonight? Let's start there.
Oh, well, check it out. Okay, we'll start with that. We got that. I'm not sure if you. Where am I? There's my hand. So that's the. I don't know if that's in good focus or not, but it's a nice little tight. It's called Meat Breath. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that one.
Mhm.
Mendo, I believe it was Mendo Breath crossed a meatloaf, and the Mendo Breath might be a GGG male something or other. I think so. It fits all the profiles. It smells dank, like real cushy, real earth gas is what I'd say if I had to give it that category thing. It's a lot like a lot of other things I like. You know, I hits the spots that hit home for the evening smoke, and yeah, that's what I'm smoking. I'm just trying it out actually the first time, and it's really cool because the guild I've been putting on events, right? And I got the seeds at a swap, and I'm doing another one right now. So if anyone's in the Vancouver Island area, I'm just gonna throw it out there right now. It's coming up in a couple weeks, and it's on um, the 29th of March, and it's at 2% Jazz Coffee in Victoria, BC. So if you're in the area and you want to, even if you don't have seeds, you want to come down and talk weed, come on down. Chances are you'll probably leave with a seed because everyone is really friendly, right? And it's been a great um, event. Like we've done a bunch of events there, and it's always a blast. So this one I'm looking forward to.
Nice, just in time for the outdoor season.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. People like it's the green fever is upon us now, right? Right as soon as the here we got all the blossoms are starting to go off, the plum trees and the cherries are just behind, and right when that starts to happen, everyone starts to itch. It's a little early still, but if you have the right genetics in the right locations, you start getting ready. That's for sure. And like behind me, I got my mamas, and you know, so yeah, I've got my little library, my girls, right, and I have some favorites, and that's actually right now that's all I'm at is just holding things that I love and not worrying too much about going too crazy with the flowers at the moment. I will be soon, but yeah, I'm just sitting on my mom's.
Well, you can't just leave us there. What's the moms? What's some of the favorites that you're sitting on?
Okay. So now we'll get into that. So we got the favorites. What is this one? This one is the triple cherry is behind me here. She's moving around. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's kind of like a cherry pie type of thing, but it's a real nice cherry. Like some of them I don't get the cherry at all. This one I nicknamed it rhubarb because it smells when I crack the when I do some leaf plucking on it, it just has a wicked like rhubarby type of smell where I get more than cherry. But I guess that's that tartness, like how rhubarb is sort of tart and so are cherries. So I guess that's hitting the same things, but I've nicknamed her rhubarb. And then I've got the Afghan Haze by Mr. Nice Seeds. I can't rave enough about that plant, actually. And it's a real tricky one to get right. But when you get it right, fuck, it's good. It, But yeah, that's she's sitting in behind me here, and then over here, this is my this one's my like a legend one I've got. Even though there's nothing to her right now, she's just in mumhood, right? Like she's 2-3 feet high, but that's the Lindsay, it's called, and everyone loves that tries that. It's just it's an old classic BC strain. It's been around for quite a while on the mainland, but I've held on to it dearly because there's something about it, and when people try it, they know it's got something. And um, I've kind of fell in love with her a lot, but I have yet to be able to make a cross of it that I really that made a number of seeds. So I wonder what's up with her. She made it with the one male. She made quite a few, but it's kind of hit or miss. It's odd. I don't like. Someone suggested it might be a polyploid or something like that. I don't know, and maybe I was just always off on my timing. Is more like it, like really, but. I've tried, and I'll keep trying with her because I've never done any selfing with them. I'm all about regular crosses. I'm not opposed to selfing. I'm about to try it out, but it's just the way I've done it. Traditionally, I got a boy, and I try him to my harem, and I'll see where he matches up. Eventually, I'll get through them, but it's getting ridiculous actually, because once you start crossing, you're sitting on a lot of seed testing, right? And so you better pick what you really like. Is what I've learned.
Wise words, that's for sure.
I
So,
think so. Narrow it down.
oh, go ahead.
Oh no! You go ahead. I gotta get this thing going. It's canoeing.
I was gonna just
Sorry.
say, the last time we spoke, you just kind of kicked off the guild. You know, so
Yeah, yeah.
how's things going? What's new? I mean, what you been up to with that?
Well, okay. So the first year it was 2022. I did 3 seed swaps up in like Vancouver Island's a big island. It's almost the size of Michigan, basically. The length it takes about 6-7 hours to drive south to north. So I did 3 swaps, one in the south, a couple in the mid island, sort of more pushing towards the north, and they were okay. And then I hooked up with one person at the swaps, the Tom Different, he goes by, and they have a grading system. So Tom and Francis, and they have another thing called urbanistic scopes. So what their whole deal is looking at the weed up close. And so meeting those guys was really cool because they're young and they're enthusiastic about pushing the local scene. So I hooked them up with my friend that I had started out the original swap at the cafe, and we started to do what was called the Canna Cafe monthly. And so we'd all get together and smoke and chat weed, and look at weed with microscopes and just totally weed nerd right out. It was really good times. But it ended up that was a real like the local legal producers, like the store weed basically is who really that took to, and that was great because it helped bring the awareness out there. And yeah, I didn't have as many home growers show up at the event as I'd hoped for, but it was still a starting point. And the seed swap part was always like my favorite thing that did happen from it. So I just thought this year, well, let's start out again, going back to the beginning and do another seed swap. And um, the idea was always to do a cup, and that's kind of changed a little bit. Like I would really cup fucking crazy for a while, and then I'm like, if that happens naturally, it will happen once it builds to a point of where it's going. And this year has been crazy great because I've been getting just invited to an event already, and like on this again, and started this up this first seed swap, and then going to take place in the Canna Cafe some more, and just maybe this will finally get to a cup or at least a celebration of our local scene, because I think whoever is having the most fun won the cup. and and yeah, really, like, because we all like what we like, and to me, it's about growing. I really like, it's about the plant. I don't care if it's like, I really see it as all as like, I think sacrament is a bit of a far shot, but it's all sacred, and like the sharing of it is the sacred part. So even if your pot sucks and you're sharing it with me, you have good intentions, and I'll enjoy it. And I'm not a weed snob. You know, I grew up in north of Michigan, so way back in the day, and we smoked some seedy fucking weed, and appreciated what we had. So I learned that way back when, that there's you know, I try to appreciate the whole spectrum, from freshly cut down to cured right up, and I like it all at some level. Of course, I have my favorites, but you know, so you know, I I'm looking forward to another season of growing outside. That's for sure. Oh, I'm losing you, Eagle. Okay, here we
Oh,
go.
that one's my fault. That one was my fault, Mark.
Oh, okay. I thought, oh shit, here we go again.
I can't wait to try to get a few outdoor seasons under my belt. I'm kind of with Buddy last night when he was talking about, I've always wanted to do it, but I've always been a full-time caregiver indoors. So I've always kind of felt like putting plants outdoors while I've had my indoor
Yeah.
growing, just kind of inviting trouble, if you will. So
Oh
I've
yeah,
just kind of
absolutely.
stayed
That,
indoors.
yeah, that's where, well, like for me, for us, we can do our four. I live in a neighborhood, so I'm gonna do my four and enjoy them. That's how we do it. And then I've got my license for my indoor. So I've checked it out, and indoor can technically be a greenhouse as well. So that's, I always call it out, but it's actually technically in when I do it out that way too. I've also, you know, I mess around with the floor, but because we're allowed to do that without, you know, I don't know what, I think you were telling me the Michigan rule is six flowering. Is it?
No,
No, no.
no. If you if you're just a recreational smoker, you can have 12 per household. If you're a medical
Oh,
patient, you can have 12 plus your household, but they have to be in different areas. And then you can be a
yeah.
caregiver,
Same with
patient,
us. Same with us.
take on 12 per patient.
Yeah. I, okay. All right. That's the way it works. So for us, it's sort of different, but sort of very similar. We can be what they call is a not a caregiver here. They call it a designated grower, and you can grow for up to two patients, and two designated growers can team up in one location, so you can have four licenses on one location. But I don't do that. I have a personal production grow for my medical condition, and then I can do my four, and it just like always happened to be so that like, hey, I love pot, right? And it was like, wow, when it works for medicine too, aren't we blessed? You know, like that's the thing. And because like I say, I'm really about growing it. I love growing. I'm not so much into dabs and stuff. I find that's like, I, not that I'm opposed. Don't get me wrong. I'll take a rip when someone offers me one. But on my own, I'm a joint smoker. I like to put hash in joints, and just, you know, smoke weed is my thing. You know, I'm a flower guy, but
Nothing wrong with that. So the cup that you were talking about
no.
there, is that kind of showcasing genetics that have been bred in your area? Is that what I'm kind of taking away from that?
Well, yeah, like I talked to you about that before. We have a history, like I'll just be straight up, and people that know. Way back in the day, you guys were crazy. They're gonna hang you up by your balls and fucking kill you for weed, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like the states in general. And we had a laxer stance. We just go what? And so people literally, they moved from California up into BC and to set up shop up here. And that wasn't the only growers. We had plenty of Canadian growers, but people that saw that light, they do that, right? They moved to get out of that, and that's BC was like a safe haven somehow, and it was just like it had outdoor and indoor, but indoor. It was indoor. I'll tell you, like that's what it was because it's a rainy, cold place, and you got some auto flowers and some stuff that locally worked, and they're famous from I don't know if you remember back in the Mark Emery days of cannabis culture and the seed, like the early seeds that we could buy in Canada. They were always centered around. There was two plants that are really famous, and that's the Mighty Might and the Time Warp. And you'll hear a lot of Canadian guys of our age talk about them. And I really think that out here, if it's going to work outside really well, it kind of acts like one or the other is sort of what I see. I'm like, oh, that, it's some new name, but I'll be like, that one's sort of like a Time Warp, or that one, it's acting like more like a Mighty Might. And the Mighty Mites are basically the autos. And the Time Warps are like what I call a northern sativa. They're kind of like they take a lot longer, but they can handle the rain. And and like a friend pointed out, Time Warp because there's nothing, and then boom, it's on. The stack is there, and so that's kind of the fun part. But those are our two locals, and there's a lot more. I kind of figure that from you guys that Alaska Thunderfuck is a relation of the Time Warps, and there's something I had before way years and years ago called the 90 Dayer, and that was a early auto, and I'm pretty sure that was like something of the same type of thing, Alaska Thunderfuck, and this is all before. I never heard of that lowrider stuff. I tried that, I didn't like it, but these were older autos from before that, and they weren't called auto. They were more or less a ruderalis type of weed. That's all kind of if you were in the know of, and that wasn't really that secret or anything. I think back in those days there was that Sensi Seeds putting out skunk ruderalis, and people saying that half the plants sucked. Half the plants were like a skunk that like was a fast skunk, and then the other the odd ones were a good auto or whatever, but pretty hit and miss. And that's sort of way back then. But our local Mighty Might was really, really good. It's kind of now, everything gets watered down like over time, right? And I have a few strains that have the genetic in them, but they're not pure anymore. And I just try to breed them because I know those old lines. I just try my hardest to make the choices that when I make the next batch of seeds, I took the plants that they struck a chord in my memory of older generations. So I that's how I do it.
Right now.
Yeah, I remember asking you about that before, about the Michigan strains and about if there was a history of it, and you said not per se, but like I say, this place was like, it was kind of hot in the 90s. This was crazy. It was because, again, I think before the states couldn't make enough. Like to me, this is just my thinking, is Mexico was the brick, was the cheap weed, and Canada was the hydro, and that to help supplement the supply chain that was crushed by prohibition, that because it was just so fucking tight that people were doing it, but it wasn't as prevalent. So Canada sort of took a big part of that, making good weed. Then the west coast of Canada was the spot because, again, it's the west coast. It has an influence from you guys too, with Washington, Oregon, and California right there. It's kind of that left coast idea. So a lot of stuff went on here, and a lot of genetics came out of here especially during those Mark Emery years. Like you always hear about all these growers down there that are using like starts from the Emery years, from the cannabis culture times. And I remember I bought the first seeds he ever offered were Early Bud and BC Kush, and we tried them both, and they were pretty good. But I like the Early Bud. This was way back. I'm thinking 95 or something, 94. Um, but yeah, it's been a while. I've been at it for a minute.
Whatever happened to Mark Emery? He kind of fell off my radar a few years ago there.
Yeah, well, he was last time I saw him. He came here, did a talk, and we went to see him talk. And then he, I believe, moved to Colombia or something like that, actually, and remarried a woman from down there, and that's what I think he did. But I'm not sure. He's not. But I did go and see him talk before, and I believe I'm right with that. But I'm again, I'm not his friend or anything. So. He seemed like a interesting fellow though. Like as a back then, I used to think, shit, man, he's putting it all on the forefront because they started selling seeds and shipping seeds and buying seeds from lots of different breeders. Like Breeder Steve was one of the originals there, and all those. I I used to have stacks of those magazines. Unfortunately, someone stole them, but I could go through that. Yeah, one of those old. This is years ago when I was a kid, but um, yeah, it was a great thing what we had with that seed accessibility. But before that, even though I bought seeds in London, Ontario, really early, I think it was 94, 93, from a shop down there, and he was bringing in genetics from Amsterdam and then selling them, and those were amazing too. And then that was a place called the Hemporium in London, and Chris Clay's still in the industry here on Vancouver Island now too, and he was, yeah, he got arrested. I think he started to push the boundary and he started selling clones under the counter, and they shut him down. But the seeds lasted for a while, and I got some seeds from him, and they were always favorites. We had Purple Star and the Real Deal Northern Lights, and Williams Wonder out of Oregon there, but someone had brought it to Amsterdam, I guess, and then managed to get back to Canada.
I haven't heard of
But
that
yeah,
one.
those were good times, Eagle. Bringing back memories. You haven't heard of the Williams Wonder?
Oh no, I have heard of it. I haven't heard about. I haven't heard of it in a minute. There, it's been a minute since I've heard somebody bring that one
Oh
up.
yeah, it's been a minute, right? Yeah, yeah, it was spicy. That's what I remember. We used to call it pepperweed. It was really spicy.
I remember when Mark got released from prison. There, he called out. He that man almost ruined the extract market. I think when he called out on how they were trimming
Yeah.
the buds too close and trying to accuse the growers of trying to, you know,
Oh yeah. Didn't
make an extra profit, a whole nother, you know what I mean, when they should have just left the way it is.
yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah. That all the weed looked like it was like some people will, they'll when they're rolling a joint, they'll just kind of trim with scissor rollers. They'll just cut all the outside of the bud off, and it kind of looked like that for a few years, didn't it? Like everyone is just like going too tight and just like these little round, yeah, didn't even look like weed.
Yeah. So has your grow practices changed at all? I mean, how are we going to prepare for the outdoor season?
Well, okay, well, yeah, that's a good question. So what I like to do is one year I start seeds each year. I'll start some fresh seeds, and and but I'll always try to find one. And some years it's hard because I'll be like, wow, I've got a few that I already know it, and I won't start seeds for outdoor that year because I'm like, oh shit, I kept the clone that I know I want to grow. So that's the case this year, really. Is I've got a couple clones that I just know they just kicked ass in my location. So I'll just start them up, and I found that going too early isn't always a good thing. If you have a mom and she's nice and you can take big clones, and and you're good at taking a biggish clone like a 6-8 inch clone, not just a little wee thing, you can get a little head start on them, and then I'll start in, like, I'll look at the local date of the if you know your plant well, you'll know it's trigger time, right, for flowering. So then you gotta look at the spring and make sure your lighting is beyond that trigger date. So that's tricky with some of them, and I won't even put them out until mid June or end of June because they'll flash too early unless they're more sativa dominant, and then I find that they're not going to like me at the end of the year. So the ones I like to work with, I kind of have to put out really late. So that gives me, I say, about 2 months to get ready for them. And I always, back when we were kids, I thought 420 was the day you were supposed to cut your clones or start your seeds. Because I was naive at 420. Oh, what's that? Oh, April 20th. That's right, right? Like, so I always thought that. And I'd say you could start your seeds earlier, but it's a good time for cloning around here because that basically gives you 2 weeks to root, a month in the 1 gallon, and maybe slip it into a 3 gallon for another 3 weeks or something, and then put it out into whatever its final home. And you're right at solstice when the days are long, and you're not going to risk going prematurely into flower. So that's the main thing here, because if you go out a little early and you put you're sore. If you go out a little early, you'll screw yourself because they'll start to flower and then they'll re-veg, and then that takes off. You'll lose a few weeks, and your plants are just a little bit stunted and off, right? So I always figure on the side of caution, go a little later than you think, and ideally mid June for indica, early June for sativa ish, and that's what I've come to learn. And but that's how I get ready. I just kind of size up that pot. Like I don't worry about my methods haven't changed too much, Eagle, except for, and I tell everyone this: work with what you can work with. Don't get upset that you can't, work with this or that you don't have access to. Just work with what you got and work towards those changes. Like you got awesome lights. I like those. Look at these old schoolers, right? But I got them and they're working me. So whatever. Like they're ceramic metal halide, and I changed them out a few years ago. I knew someone that was basically giving them away, so I said, "Yeah, fuck, I'll give those a shot." I dropped a few of the old school HPSs and tried these out, and they work good in my environment for the wattage, right? So again, I'm not dissing them. I'm working with them, and again, you can get there's many ways to skin a cat, right? Like you can grow fire out of the backyard or out of the LEDs or out of the CMH or HPS. It's all a balance, right, of all the factors is how I see it. So I like my outdoor basically is mixed light because I start inside and I keep my mom inside over the winter, right, and all that. So I'd have to say it's all mixed light. And then again, I just have experience with them that has led me to believe most people put them out too early. Seedlings a different story too, though. But I could go into a whole spiel about that. A seedling is it's okay with the days lengthening up to that point, because each day, it doesn't matter. They'll grow in just like you can start out in 12-12 and you'll still see them veg for a few weeks. So you could start a seedling young outside, but a clone, different story. You'll flash it to flower if you go out too early. And I like clones personally. I like container plants and I like clones. So like which come first, the seed or the clone? Well, that depends where you got it from. And and then I just really think that there's some good about familiarity and learning how a plant grows and what to expect from her, and I love them both, but I really enjoy the benefits of cloning that I see. I hear a lot of people pro-seed opposed to the clone, but I say if you're doing clones right and you're keeping them clean and all that, you're gonna keep stocky, small plants that are manageable comparably to leggy seeds. So that's my other tip for outdoor.
So when you say, do you think that the flash could be a good thing on certain strains? Maybe say a stretcher to where it goes like pre-flower, then back through the re-veg, and now you've got a more of a monster plant where things are tighter spaced and more of a bushier plant. Can that be a benefit for an outdoor?
They could be, but I think that's a risky route because you might be. Oh shit! I thought it just might like they go to a lot of one pointers and the instead of making a branch at that one pointer, sometimes they just make like a mutated calyx thing that doesn't make any branches, and they'll follow that pattern until they can grow out of the 1, 3, 5 again, right? So that can really knock you back. So that is a good, like your point is valid though, but I think that what it does do, Eagle, is when you have a good one of the like if you have an auto strain and you cross it to a photo period strain, and people are calling them the fast flowering in that F1 generation. If you just flash a fast flower, it'll just start to bud. So then it doesn't stop again, right? It'll build right through the solstice days. But on a photo period strain, you're probably going to go more into some problems. But I've noticed that this is really neat. Maybe 3, 4 nights of dark is all a fast flower will need to set up to in order to just go for it and finish. So whereas the other, that's what I noted a couple times because I have something that I've bred a whole bunch of times into itself that I just called auto, and this was way back. I hadn't even heard about the auto rage, and I was calling it auto, and I was laughing calling them semi-auto and fully auto, and then I heard that too, and like, I guess we all think the same at the same time, right? So my autos, I started crossing into my photo periods to see what I could do to get these to work outside. And on some of them that I really liked and continued with, I could bring them to auto by F3, F4, but with recognizable traits from its photo period mothers. I was always using the auto males because I started with a clone of a photo period on the other side, right? But then I noticed on the F1s, you could just do what I said. You could just kind of push them into flower real easy. Just a couple nights in the dark, and they'd just be doing it anyway, even in June, right? So, but the quality of an F1 isn't the quality of an F3 or F4. That's because you're going to breed in your qualities over the next couple generations, and that's where you really lock it in. Because the most autos, the full auto plant, that's the starting point, are kind of woody or kind of like half-ass. Even the best of them, I still think that. I hear people, oh, autos are different. Well, I still haven't tried anything. I tried some of the top-notch shit last year in the auto thing. I still found them woody. Okay, so, but I think if you work on them and you start your breeding and you go down those roads, that's where people are saying these autos are great once you get the work put in. But it's really important to hold that original auto trait too, though, in your library. That way you can make these things, and you're not just starting with someone else's F3 of something else, right? Because it's the auto. I lucked out on it. Someone gave me 20 seeds from the mountains in I think it was 2003 ish, and I started them, and 2 of them were full automatic. So I bred them together, and over the generations, I just upped my number, and that's what my starting point was. And they're minis. They're like they're dwarfs, but when crossed, I can size them up, which is really kind of an interesting thing to follow. It shows you a lot. You start thinking, wow, I'm like learning shit about dogs and all, and all these breeding, like husbandry, all the shit. It's all there. It really is. So that's and I might have said it on your show before somewhere. I've said it. With 2. So I got way back. I got Colonel Clark's or Robert Clark's Colonel Clark's book on botany, and it was I read that fucking thing over and over and over. and it was kind of abstract because they talk about traits until I saw, well, that's a purple plant, that's a green plant. That was the first thing that was okay. I can see purple, and then the next visible trait to follow is auto, because you can see that's an auto, that's a reg by the auto. So those are two visible things to start with as the understanding points of breeding, and they're real easy to get a hold of and go with, right? Because purple and auto, and then the mix matches of everything, and then you start going into other things. And yeah, there's guys out there that are totally opposed to me and my pollen chucking and my seed swapping. And you know what I say? Fuck them. I hate to sound like that, but it's not their problem. Like they can, because before you know it, the big shots are breeding up plants that will never be able to reproduce. They're making these sterile plants, which I'm all about too. I'm like, good, you guys can do that, but don't fuck with us home growers that just want to do our old school regulars. Like, you shouldn't feel threatened. Who gives a shit? You guys got it all locked down anyways. And I've listened to a bunch of these scientists talk on shows like this. And I really appreciate your show, Eagle, because it's like shop talk to me, more or less. It's like the fucking guys that are doing it in the small little shops, right? The little garage kind of style. And that's it. And these big guys, they want to make it so they can, you got to buy our strain and you're not going to be able to reproduce. And then they'll tell you a spiel that it's so that the hemp farmer doesn't pollinate my plant and all this deal. No, it's not. It's so they can resell you the seed over and over again, and they can patent their work. And I get it, but the plant is the plant, and we can always breed it out. And those ones that are the infertile lines, I don't care how chronic it is. I don't really want anything to do with it. That's my take on it. But I'll take my few seeds, and I'm okay with that if I get a seed from my neighbor's stuff or whatever. Like that's blown out of proportion, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It's going to be crazy when it gets down to that point where, they are actually going to be able to trademark seeds, limit, you know what I mean, or strains.
Yeah,
So what do you think the
yeah,
penalty
they're
would
doing it
be?
here in Canada already.
All right, then what's the penalty for, growing out somebody's strain
I
or something like that?
I guess what they're going to go after, again, this is just my opinion and just from watching and thinking, is they're going to go after financial retribution. They want fucking money. Is at the end of the day, it's they're going to be after the people that are trying to sell someone else's patented material and make money off it. And basically, um, I get it. Like I have an understanding of it, but that doesn't mean I agree with the status quo. Because this plant's been our plant forever, right? It's the people's plant. She's gone across every border on Earth. She doesn't even see a border or none of this, and it's not a she. She doesn't think. But we, the people, traded this thing forever, and that's whose plant it really is. When it comes right down to it, that's why I love coming on your show. Like I said, because it's the real deal. I listen to a lot of the shows, and I go, wow, all you got on here is scientists and all this shit, and that's great, but it's over. It's not really about us home growers, and you are, and that's and caregivers, and that's what I'm all about. Is the right for people to make their own choices and their own medicine and their own. If I want to choose Eagle to grow my weed, that's who I want to grow my weed. I don't want to have to go to get it through something else. Like, or if I can have the ability, like I have, to grow my own, like because my my condition still allows me to do that. I will do that till I can't. Then I'll be asking someone like yourself to do it for me if that came to that, right? And that's what I'm all about, and that's what the guild is all about. And it doesn't just. And so, what I really love about my guild philosophy is that it invites everyone from hydroponic to regenerative and everything in between. Because that's what it is we're all growing a plant. There's no right or wrong way. I've smoked excellent weed grown in every way, and I've smoked crap grown in each methodology. And so I've had some regenerative with really great intention. It was so gross I couldn't finish the third of the joint. Like that, it doesn't matter how it was grown. And then I've had hydro that was so good that I couldn't get fucking enough of it, you know. And then the other way around too, where the regenerative been so bang on, and the hydro's been crap. So that's where I say, actually, it's a lot more to just one thing or another. It's who's driving the ship, how did they do it, and what happened on the course of the getting from here to there on your crop, right?
I, we should be able to fucking grow whatever, however we want. I believe that quality thing comes into more or less the attention and care the grower gives. I laughed a little bit when you referred to her as she a couple of times, the plant behind you, and I heard you say, "Well, she doesn't think." I'm not so sure about that anymore. I'm really starting to believe these plants are way intelligent around us, and we're just not picking up on how they communicate necessarily and all that good shit. I watched a thing today initially sent to me by Smiley and Medi and Carlton there. I don't know which one threw it up in chat there, but it was a thing about mushroom computers. So they found like a slime mold basically,
Oh
and
yeah.
they think here in a while that that will be the like just the way of computing, that it was better than binary code, and it was wild. They were actually growing mushrooms on the fucking motherboard and had wires running into
I saw
a
some.
bucket. Did you see it? That was fucking crazy, man.
I saw the picture of that. Was just like, is that real or not? But apparently it is, right? Yeah, it's wild. I'm there with you. Where we're just scratching the surface of this whole thing, right? Of these relationships with plants, but they definitely, it's a symbiotic thing. That they're giving us what we want, and what are we doing? We're keeping care of these things, right? We're breeding them. We're propagating their cuts. We're doing all these and in little bubbles. And that's what the other thing I think is so important about home growing is we lost our genetics to all these. We used to have such more variety, right? When every little garden held a sacred little secret cut, and or two or five or whatever, right? And everyone was holding them, and now it's like just this idea that I'll just go pick up some more weed from the dispensary, and I'll buy seeds from them too when I go to grow next time. And so after a while, everybody's growing cookies, man, and it's fucking boring. I smoke with people, and everyone's smoking cookies. It's all the whole, maybe not that name, but it's all a similar profile that people think is good. It's stacked up crystal on a purplish bud that tastes gassy or whatever, and it's like, you know what? I like it too, but I know there's a whole bunch of other weeds that are getting shoved to the wayside. So that's why I hold all these old cuts, like old Lindsay. She like some of these old ones, they're pushing old. They're teenagers, and and beyond. I'm sure how old Lindsay is. I've heard legend that she's from back in the mid '90s, but I don't know. I kind of think so.
There any tricks you do your older strains to keep them kind of new and vibrant?
Well, yeah. See, that's the thing too with the outdoor four thing, and then using the greenhouse though. If you can get the sun on them, like everyone always says, if you can get your plant out. So in here, I remember what parallel you guys had about the 45th or some deal like that, 44.
I believe close to there. I can tell you just for sure. I've
Yeah, so we're on the 49th, right? So it's quite a bit different. But then the West Coast climate, it's way warmer, right? All of a sudden, even though we're way up north, we get this coastal climate that the warm, moist air is always the, what do they call it? Pineapple Express. That's the air current from Hawaii over to us, and so it brings a lot of warm. And so we have a real mild winter, and and the way I can run it is in the greenhouse. You can do a little supplemental lighting. You can put them out a little earlier, right? Keep them vegging. So then, as long as they're getting some hours of sun in the day, they're recouping those old strains. Like, and another tip, Eagle. This is a really good one. I don't think many people have touched on, and maybe we'll talk it on your show first. Is I learned it from bonsai people. Is how they prune their trees sometimes is they'll go heavily pruning the top. Like if you could see, I don't think you can. But I plucked all the big leaves off the top, just leaving their branches. That way, the light will go deeper onto the plant because I know I'm going to cut all these tops for cuttings, and then the next stage of cuttings will be already lit up underneath, right? So I don't prune up the bottoms like a lot of people lollipop the shit out of the bottoms. Well, on a mother, I don't do that. I do it opposite. I take off all the big fan leaf off the top. Then that way all the light goes down in and I grow out, and then the plant's response is to grow more leaves. So it grows all its small branches with more leaves, and I have a whole bunch more cuttings that are worthy with good tips. So that's just something I've just shifted into, and I think that that's sort of getting you ready for your outdoor season too, because you're getting a mum that's cleaned up for the light to penetrate on. Then you put that mum out in a sun situation. The sun comes right down on it, and you take your cuts before it flashes into flower. You bring them back inside again. So it's quite the commitment, and it's like a lifestyle, to keep these things. Well, you know it. I'm seeing you're in the same boat, different ship, same, same crew. But yeah, I don't know if you've heard of that technique yet.
Well, I've always done it a little bit different because I'm not necessarily planning to put a plant outdoors. So I'm usually just trying to push out my
Yeah,
plant. So I it only necessarily works well for a seedling, but as it comes up to maybe 7 stages there, I'll strip everything up until that
oh,
top node and then let all that bottom, you know what I mean? And then sometimes I, might nip that top
yeah,
a
I
little
do.
bit.
I do the same.
But yeah, that's
I do
kind
the
of the
exact
same
same
thing.
thing, Eagle. Exactly. It looks. Yeah, it is the same thing, and it's extreme looking when you first do it. You're like, "Holy shit! I just ripped all that girl right down to nothing." But then it comes back, and it just comes back so bushy that it seems like the wise way to go. Did I lose you? Well, everybody, if I'm on here on my own chatting away, here we go. But yeah, those are my girls, and again, I grew up north of Michigan, and so it was kind of like going home, going on an Eagle show. Hopefully, he comes back on though, and continue this conversation because that's very interesting. Showing him actually, I could see it. I could see it good on this one. What I was talking about. So I'm taking off all the leaves so that she can let it in on that, right? But hey, you know what? I don't know what's up. I'm gonna sign out. I'm gonna try to go back on and see if I can find Eagle.
Are you there?
Hey, Joe.
Is
I
that
don't.
Eagle?
I can't hear you, Joe. Are you there? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm here.
Can you hear me?
No, I'm on the Eagle show, but he's disappeared somehow. So I can hear you.
There
Can you
we
hear
go. Can
me?
you guys hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Yeah,
Well,
I can, Eagle.
all right, Joel. This is
I
I
guess
got
we
you
got.
out, brother.
Oh, cool. What a fucking honor to be on here with Joe.
Well, well, did he leave?
I can't.
No, I'm here.
All right.
And
Yeah,
I
this
don't
is
know if he did.
a lot of stuff has been going on. I joined a group. It's called Seed is Art. He's Chaz, who's the CFO of Highland Farms in Colorado and in Michigan. So I've got licensed stuff. I'm replicating my whole collection, and so everything is going to be fresh. If you go to growlikejoe.com and then you go into seeds, it'll lead you to the esoteric section where my menu is being replicated. All the strains are being blown out 100, 200 seeds at a time, and only picking out the strongest and best examples. Uh, I'm putting out at least 50 land races from around the world by the end of the year. Every 90 days, I'll be releasing 10 to 15 new replications. I sent you a picture of my Blue Dragon Burmese Maui Kona. Did you get that picture?
I did not. I don't
Oh,
believe so.
yeah, it's an award-winning plant that we're gonna enter in Colorado and Michigan. Are you in Michigan?
Me? Yeah, I'm in Michigan.
I'm gonna be in Michigan. I'm working with a group that has a license in Michigan, Highland High Farms from Colorado. So they've got farms and dispensaries in Detroit and around the state. It's a 40 foot $50 million corporation. And my buddy Chaz, he's the CFO. He runs it. Him and I partnered up, and basically, they're going to be marketing my strains. All my strains now are hand chosen from the best examples. Then they're tested and passed through the regulation, the federal regulation. So they're basically hemp seeds. There's no THC in it. So now with that website, I can sell stuff over the internet and get it through my bank and do it like if I was a 150% legit. You know what I mean? So right now I'm working on my Durban poison line. I'm replicating my Durban and then my blackberry Durban and my thin mints, my Denver, my poison OG. And so yeah, so I'm in the middle of doing that, and so I have a lot of support. I've got a huge team behind me. The company that I'm working with now, Caesar's Art, they've won over 150 cups, and they're as good as you get. And Chaz, I have to tell you about Chaz because he's been in the business with the same company for 13 years. He started from day one, and out of all the people that I've met, he's one of the few people that's still in business. That the business didn't eat them up. I mean, the industry has gone through some drastic changes, and so you can't. Sell weed for 1,000 when it costs you 1,000 to grow. You know what I mean? The price went down. I mean, people were paying as low as 300 per indoor. And in Colorado, the indoor price, top shelf stuff went down to like 700. You know,
Right.
here in Oklahoma, in Oklahoma they got like 3,000 dispensaries and 3,000 growers. It's like the Wild West. They're trying to rein it in and get it to a place where it's manageable. Did you know that THCA is legal?
Well, yeah, I haven't really heard any legislation against it yet, so maybe they
Oh,
have just
it,
gotten hip
that
to it.
that farm bill they passed. Weed is like legal. The only time it's illegal is when you smoke it and you decarbonize it.
Hmm.
Think of all the fucking people that went to jail and all the bullshit that 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 the making of Mother Nature illegal and been selling the chemical concocted copies, pharmaceutical companies, all the bullshit that they've laid on us. It's incredible. I when I talk to people, I tell them, I said, you know that up until when the British Empire ended, then those drugs became illegal. They were legally grown and produced in the British Empire and sold all over the East wherever they wanted marijuana. They bought it from that was grown in India or produced in Central Asia, and they would tax it and sell it legally. It was totally legal, you know. And so now, then they made it illegal when they couldn't control it anymore, when they couldn't tax it. So it's sort of like a Ponzi scheme, but it's like a big game from the pharmaceutical companies who basically control our whole fucking life, man, and all the information and everything. So it's like, uh, you know, I mean, in Asia, they have like, here is like full blown legal. I mean, New York is like is like wide open. You know, I mean, every state goes different. You have like immediately the first people, and if it's a medical state, it's the medical people who get out, and then the next group. There's like 7, 8 different waves of investment in the cannabis industry, and probably 90% of it people lose money. You know.
So I don't mean to cut you off there, but I gotta say this to Mark there. Uh, I don't know what happened to this episode, Mark. Well, first of all, Joe, this
It's
isn't the
okay.
Weed Nerd World. Weed Nerd Worlds are
I'm
tomorrow.
enjoying it.
What?
Oh, I said Weed Nerd Worlds are tomorrow, like the panel shows.
Yeah.
That's all
SoCal's
good.
trying to get in now. My computer, it must have got hacked or something, Mark. When I fell out, my
If
computer.
you want to turn the fucking weed world, I don't mind at all. Eagle, let's go.
Okay, all right.
It's
If
all
that's what
good.
you want to do, we can do it. I mean, it's pretty much there. But
You
yeah,
know,
but I don't know what's going
I'm
on my end. I had to log back on to my phone, my Wi-Fi. My computer won't recognize my Wi-Fi now. My computer's been taken down. My phone recognizes my Wi-Fi, but my computer won't find it or hook up to it now. So my computer's restarting during this
yeah. Well, it
mess.
didn't like me in the beginning either.
So it's
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Hey, well, no, I don't mind this at all.
okay. Okay, we'll roll with it then. All right. Well, Joe, you see, if you're on a
Oh yeah,
phone,
I
click,
I'm getting
click.
you in and out. You
I'm
do
not
it
on the
up.
phone. I'm on my computer.
Well, you should be able to see us all,
I don't see shit.
huh? Yeah, you should be able to see everybody. I guess so, Cal. If you're
Huh.
listening,
I
if you
see
want to
Eagle. I
come
see
back,
you, Joe. Yeah, I see Eagle now, and I see Joe when he's talking.
okay. Yeah. Well, I guess welcome to the Weed Nerder world. I don't, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Joe. I just wanted to explain
Yeah. So
to
anyway,
Mark
maybe.
what was going on.
Oh no, that's all good. Yeah, we got. Well, it's kind of neat because I was wondering who's this here, Joe. Oh, Joe Pietri. I thought, oh, that's that guy I listened to a couple times now. Fucking very interesting. I've always thought that too. So I thought, oh, it says I can invite, and I hit a button, and there he was. So I took. I don't know how it gave me control, Eagle, but it did.
All right,
Hey
Don.
Joe. Hey Joe. This is
Yeah.
Mark's one-on-one, brother. Get the
Yeah.
fuck off. Get the fuck
No,
out.
it's
This is supposed to be
we
Mark's
got this.
one-on-one.
He said it's a cool. We're all good. We're good. It was yeah, we're good.
Oh yeah, we're all good. No worries.
We're good. Yeah, it was just computer problems
Yeah.
that let it all kind of go
Yeah, we're all
astray.
good.
We're
Well,
good.
we can do our own
I
show
started the
because
night with.
I've got a lot of news about
Well,
what.
let's hear about Mark. This is supposed to be his one-on-one. Let's hear about him.
It's all right, brother. He's
on.
good. So who wants to pick up?
You know what? Yeah, where were we? We were talking about. I know what we were talking about. We were talking about the pruning technique on a mother. Okay, you guys. That's now different people do things differently. I know like a lot of defoliation happens in flower and that, but I'm saying defoliate a week or two before you're going to take cuts because you're going to push out the branches harder because what the plant responds to from the heavy defoliation is to grow more, and she gets set up, and you kind of utilize that to your advantage to make your mum more full and keep them going all the way to the bottom. That's that. And then you were talking about the seedling technique where I said, yeah, absolutely. I do the same thing. I've actually on one of my pages there, I think the Leafhill one, I show an example of an extremely pruned out seedling where it's just there's nothing left to it, just a little tip and
Here,
nothing else.
I
And
see
you
you
look
now.
a couple weeks later. Okay. So then it booms right out and it just goes off. And so that's what we were talking about is how to promote, to kind of basically steer yourself ready for your outdoor season, whether it was utilizing your cuttings or your or seedlings. And I was telling Eagle Joe that I like the cuts because the cut, you kind of keep your what you enjoy and keep your things and keep working on her and keep trying experiments on the same girl so you can kind of watch where it's going over the generations of breeding because you've got the mother stock to look at and compare to whether it's going the right way or shit, if it's going the wrong way, just don't even go there because you're going to waste some time to just start over again with a different direction. If you like the cut, if that's
there are
so that's
people
what I was talking
in
about.
Michigan that grow outdoors. You grow outdoors?
Yeah, exactly. Like I was saying myself. Yeah, Joe, I'm on Vancouver Island.
Oh, you're in BC. You're on the West Coast.
I just grow a small garden outdoors.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, right on it. Right on the like I'm about 40, 50 feet above the ocean.
Yeah. I had a friend of mine
Yeah.
who got a federal license and then he got turned down by the state that he was in or the county that he was in. So he had to move his grow and to another county. It got complicated up there on the legal market, huh? You've never been legal in Vancouver?
Yeah. I don't. What I do is no. I've got my medical license for my own personal production, and then
Yeah,
I run what's called the Vancouver Island Home Growers Guild, and we
yeah.
just do small events. And I'll show again. This is the next one coming up. Do a seed swap, and so just local people getting together and having a good time with the herb and talking weed and the stuff people like to do is that's what they kind of really like is what I've learned is they like to socialize and fuck we've all known that and when you can do it with herb it's a lot of fun and so we do this seed swap thing and do something we call a cannabis cafe where people come and just hang out, smoke, and talk and whatnot, and we do that once a month.
Mark Emery
And it's been
Mark
a
Emery
couple of
and
years ago.
Jody still in Vancouver? Mark Emery?
Yeah, we were just talking about them before you came on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark is, I believe, actually out of the country now. Jody is still in the country, but Mark, I think, is in South America now. But yeah, he was like, I was just mentioning to him that to Eagle that I had started buying seeds from Mark Emery in like whatever it was, '94 or something, when he first released his first couple seeds in the back page of his magazine. But and I've listened to him talk and whatnot a few times, and I've been in the scene for a while now, and so I've seen the plant change around here from being skunk to being fruity, and now being OG or whatever they call it, cookie or whatever, like some kind of, So I have seen that evolution of our local plants just because of the I guess the influence of the masses, the Instagram, and all this shit. It's influenced our local weeds, and I find it kind of boring on the local on the legal market. But the home growers, we still have some variety. But I think people are starting to, they try to grow everything that they can buy too instead, because they think they're missing out on something. So they always gravitate to the cakes and cookies. And there used to be a lot more variety around here, is what I was telling Eagle earlier, Joe. Just because people held little pockets of genetics here and there, and we just had more of it. It was just, it was different, but it's still good, but it's changed over the years, is my opinion. And I think the growing technique of everything being on rock wool is kind of a drag too for the consumer. And not, I like growing on rock wool. It's fun. It grows fast and strong, but I don't grow on rock. I still just grow on soil, and the flavors I find the all the strains sort of can really be steered to mimic one another on that rock wool and the hard chem feeds. The programs, they lend themselves to plants that kind of act like one another, I think. Whereas that I could be totally fucking wrong, but that's just my opinion. Is locally everyone grows the same, and they grow similar varieties, so there's not much variation on the market, even though there's lots of names and lots of shit like that.
Same shit, different mix, different name.
Yeah, that's it. And it only fucking makes some people. It only fools some people, right? And then after a while, you're like, you know what? There's only probably a few main dominant traits that we all get off on out there, and then there's just a jumble of them between that. But yeah, that's where I really appreciate someone that goes through the effort to hold on to their what they call special. What they think, because that's, I don't really give a shit what most of these corporations, they don't even smoke weed. They have nothing to do with that. They just want the end dollar, right? They want high
They want it
THC
on
and they
the
want
shelf.
yield.
They want it on the
Yeah.
shelf.
So I don't want that. I want what I'm smoking, what I like. You know what I mean? So, yeah, nice to meet you. I've heard, like I said, I thought, who's this guy? I stopped on a few of your interviews and listened up and thought, fucking right. I always wonder about all the bullshit that's out there, and you seem to be right there exposing things, telling your side of the story, and I'm much appreciative of that, and I think a lot of other people are too, Joe.
Yeah. There's a new thing that that I actually reviewed a couple of days ago. It's electrostatic sieving, and it's like the cleanest hash product you've ever seen in your life. It's just like amazing, amazing, and it's on a commercial
Oh
basis.
yeah.
And when this thing breaks, it'll make like a lot of things in the industry obsolete. You know, it's It's
Yeah, I
it's
seem to recall reading about that in the old fuck. I read about that term you used, electrostatic stiving. That was I think it was mentioned in
they've been
Clark's
work
book Hashish, was it not?
the I don't think so.
Well,
The
can't.
they have been
Yeah.
working
Oh, I
on
don't
it.
know.
They have
I've
been
read
working.
some.
They have been working on it. Uh, uh, you know, they have been working on it. Now they've got it down to where they actually have it on a machine that you can use in the industry. You know, were you talking about Robert Connolly Clark?
Yeah,
Book
they've
on
getting it
Hashi?
refined.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I just remember reading that title in that book years ago. That electrostatic.
Yeah, you know, uh, there came out
I'm losing you.
an issue in Grow magazine, right? And it was written by Robert Connolly Clark, and in it he said, let me get let me get this over with as far as the article goes. And he stated, no, it's true that scientists worked along with law enforcement to qualify and quantify the loads and where they came from. And I've been saying from the very beginning, those guys are the police. Yeah, I mean, you're a DEA scientist. They're running. To me, that High Times Cup was like an intelligence gathering event, right? So he admitted he admitted his role in a way, and then he sent me a police report of when the skunk man initially was arrested. I that whole scene, that Dutch scene, and all that shit that went down, and the Beasters. I don't know if you were part of that, but a lot of weed. It's all of a sudden they shut the American weed scene and the importers down, and all of a sudden Canada became the main supplier because America is a huge weed market. So
We were talking about that.
well, what
Yeah,
I'm
we were
saying
talking
is
about that
this:
earlier,
that
Abel and I.
that whole scene, that whole scene. My attitude is this: is that the worst thing that happened was that Dutch scene in Amsterdam and their cannabis cup, and where they went around the world and infected indigenous landrace strains with their genetic marker skunk number one. So I mean, the pharmaceutical company, at not Rosenthal, the Rosenthal as well, but Robert Connolly Clark and David Watson from Horta Farm and all that shit. Those guys were being able to do work with cannabis way before we're starting to work with it now. So they're way ahead of the game, and they try to come off like they were part of the scene. No, they were the police that were part of the scene. So it's a lot of stuff I just don't take seriously. And so I mean
Hey,
nowadays
I got a
now,
question for you.
nowadays with the electrostatic sieving that's on a commercial basis, it'll make half the products that they sell out there like obsolete. You know,
What's your question, Mark?
what's your question?
He's got a little
Well,
bit
we
of.
just talked about skunk, or Joe just mentioned skunk number one, and it being spread around the world one way or another. And I question, I had heard somewhere along the way. It's a long time ago, and I can't even remember the source now. But I've seen it on a few plants and that plants with a double serration, meaning there would be a little serration in between the main one. So I call them a saw blade. That was a skunk number one trait, and that you could see it on a lot of things by seeing that saw blade. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, or if I'm just that
Gypsy
made me think of that
Nirvana,
because
Gypsy
as far as all
Nirvana.
that goes, I get you. But I'm thinking, what do I know about it? Well, I got my plants, so where can I see it in any of mine? And if so, how so, right? And so I heard along the way that the saw blade was like I say, a double serration was one of the skunk traits, that skunk one traits. And I don't know. Have you ever heard that, Joe?
No, but that's the first time I heard that. But what people think,
No.
what people think is the skunk weed or skunk number one isn't the skunk that was very popular for a very short time in the 70s. You know what I mean? So it's
Oh
uh,
yeah. Okay.
the
Yeah.
stuff that was, and it was from Afghanistan, and it left you like, it's made you smell like you've just been sprayed with the skunk, by a skunk. So it's really hard to,
Well,
it
we
was
had
really
weed
hard
like
to
that when I was
unmask.
a kid here in BC. Like early '90s, late '80s, we had skunky weed in BC for sure. We just called it skunk. That was all people called weed back then, even at that point. Then it went to floral real quick because I think it was getting too many people busted here in BC. And I know I've heard that from other people, but that just makes sense. Like looking back, when I was just a kid growing weed, not a big scene at all. That, just a young
Well,
guy
that
growing a
skunk
couple
is
plants, but I
different.
know that
That
the
skunk
whole
is
place is
that
fly.
skunk is different than skunk number one. That's not the same shit that you're talking about.
Oh
Skunk,
yeah, that's the skunk. What I got was called skunk number one. Is fruity. Yeah, no, it's not nearly as good. That skunk number one. The old skunk that I know that I can't find unless I find hints of it in these OGs once in a while. But it's more pungent. It's all the things that we all know, and I haven't seen it too much in the last bunch of years. But it's still in BC. I'll tell you that because it was a stronghold. This was like a safe hold for it, like you're saying before. So there's people have cuts that are stinky here for sure, but it's not such a thing like it used to be. That's for sure. That's like I was saying earlier. Everyone seems to be cookie crazy or whatever, right? And yeah, I get it. I don't mind smoking cookie joints, but it's not all I want to smoke.
the cookies was bred out of my Durban poison. I just, I have my stuff DNA
Oh yeah, that's what
sequenced.
I heard you say.
I have my stuff DNA sequenced. I pride myself in not being in the same gene pool as everybody else. I'm in my own gene pool. And I've just brought out a bunch of old world indicas from Central Asia. One in particular from the Hunza Valley. That's like, you know since time immemorial strain. You know, and so I'm do I what I do is
Oh, that's cool.
I either replicate the originals or I create an F1. But that's as far as I go with my breeding.
Yeah.
I have some hybrid plants that I have from pre 1972 plants. But normally I just do landrace and F1, and I try to stay as close to the originals as possible, and I try to stay away from uh, uh, from the gene the skunk number one gene pool. I want to stay out of that. I want to be able to. I don't want to go to Jamaica and smoke Dutch tree. I don't want to go to Colombia and smoke AK-47. I want to go to Colombia and smoke some fucking Colombian, dude. So of course I have an attitude because I'm a purist. I nowadays weed has gone to the toilet. I mean, first of all, they have this thing what they call bag appeal. What the fuck is that, dude? And look
Yeah.
at it. You look at it, and it looks good. It smells good. It tastes good. But guess what? It don't get you high for very long. But it has like
Yeah.
a bag
Who wants
appeal.
that?
Who the fuck wants that, man? The the
Yeah.
the 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 quality of weed has gone down so to the toilet. But today, like where I live in Oklahoma, I go to the shops and just to see what they're selling and see what they're where they're from because the ones I've been have always have been like middle of the road to be kind. But today I went to a shop where actually they were selling ounces for 100, 200, and 300. And I asked him, I said, well, you got a high price of weed. You must have the best weed in town. And he says to me, that he has a certain level that he works at him. But that's like only like maybe 5 or 10% of the shops that you find in Oklahoma are on that level. And I may be saying 5% is too much. Everybody else sells middle of the road shit. It could be it don't get you high for very long. It's just bunk. I mean, I was in New York and I saw so a half a pound and a pound that people were selling at one of these sessions like they have in New York. And I looked at it, and there's just no way I would have given you 4,000 a pound for this shit. It was garbage. So that their whole attitude of bag appeal and all that shit, that's like the Dutch telling you what you should buy, how you should grow, how you should pack it, how you should do it. Who invented those fucking assholes? You know, I mean, you know, they have people growing indoors on 18 and 6. If they try to replicate 18 and 6 outdoors, right? You'd need two suns. Fuck, it's a weed, dude. But see, the Dutch want to pimp you out and make as much money as they can out of you. So that whole scene, that whole Dutch scene, and the whole scene is like you have like 90% of people who think they know how to grow and don't know shit.
So Joe,
I
what do
had
you veg at?
what
16.8?
what
What do you veg at? 16.8? Vegging time.
12 and
16.8.
1.
I do 12 and 1.
12
12 and
on,
1.
five
I
and a
do
half
I
off,
do
an
I do
hour on,
I
five and a
do
half off.
yeah I do photo
Oh,
periodic
you do
control.
that thing. Oh, I didn't know you did that. I read about that years ago. So you
Yeah.
have a special timer to run that shit. Or you must. Some programmable timer will do that, and then you go 12 and 1,
Yeah.
12 and 1. Okay, check.
The
So
the
you're getting more days in a day.
it's the Apollo timers has actually come out with a timer that's already preset. You know, so
And they also suggest taking
Yeah,
that flower
I
time
thought that'd been
down
a
to
while
8.
now, but that is kind of cool, isn't it? Fuck, Eagle,
and
have
then
you messed around with that?
and then
Yes.
and then people when they go to flower they go 12 and 12. Now you got to realize when in these flower rooms you're putting the light right on the plant in the field, right? In the equator from sunrise to sunset. The most direct sunlight they get in the equator is 7.75 hours of light. But yet, people have in their grow rooms light directly on top of the plant, 12 and 12. And when after, like, depending on whether it's indica dominant or hybrid or sativa, the length of time is after either 6 to 7, 47 hours and 45 minutes, the plants shut down and go into photoperiodic or
They start to droop down and go to sleep anyways.
yeah, that's when you shut your fucking lights off. That's when you shut your CO2 off.
Yeah, I've wondered that. I've wondered about that. Yeah, it sort of tells you, right? Like you can sort of see it. I bet you I'm gonna watch that, guys. Yeah, I've thought about that, Joe. And that's neat that you say that because I guess that even on the equator, that first couple hours in the beginning and the last few hours at the end, the light's too low in the horizon and it just doesn't. It's not registering, or are there far red
It's
in it, or
been
what's the
measured. It's
reason
been
behind it?
measured by scientists. The most direct sunlight you get on the equator is 7 hours and 45 minutes. If it's an indica,
Okay, that's a number.
if it's an indica, it could be 6 to 6.5 hours, 6 hours and 45 minutes, depending on it's a hybrid.
And then you're going. So then you're basically doing 17 hours dark,
Yes,
or 16 and a half, 16, 15 minute, whatever it is.
yes. And your
Yeah.
plants
So
get fatter,
nice and
and
easy on the bill.
your plants get fatter, and they finish faster.
How many weeks you think you could shave off, say, something that's coming in on 10 weeks on the 12-12 idea? Bring it down to 9-8-9?
That's where you shave it down your production price. Because if you're only using six,
Yeah.
and then you're only using a certain amount of light in veg. So you right there you save like so much money, like 40-50% on electricity. Then of course a lot of times people's rooms get too hot and they have to put an air conditioner in. If you do the correct lights,
Yeah.
you don't have to put an air conditioner in. So it's like
Yeah. So
they
you're
taught you
saying
everything opposite wrong so that you would spend more money. Right nowadays, they have this fresh frozen thing. Back in the day,
yeah.
we used to export from Thailand, and by the time we got it from Thailand to the States, the way we packed it, it's a lot of times it got moldy. And then a friend of mine came up with a vacuum pack nitrogen flush machine that they use. You ever see a pack of potato chips? It's like 6 months old. You open it up, it's like fresh as a day. It was fucking packed.
Exactly.
That's because it was
Yeah.
flushed with nitrogen. It's a it's a food processing technique used every day.
Yeah.
And
That's that nitrogen.
so we
They got
started to
nitrogen in
pack,
those.
we started to pack the Thai weed and the Hawaiian weed that way. And as long as you kept it in a dark place, it was as fresh as the day you packed it. Then I talked about this on Eagle, I think, and some kid got out and real.
Yeah. And so while I got you then, I like this old time fucking info and drops of information, like of knowledge. What do you think about feeding then? Like, what do you like to give them for veg and for flour? Like in the response of what this like bit of a technique that you're doing, like in your style of lighting. What
I
works
have
good
a
for you?
1 part formula. If you go to
Yeah.
growlikejoe.com, I have nutrients. It's a 1 part. It's the finest nutrients in the world. It's a 1 part formula. And
What's the numbers on it? What are you basically giving them?
go to growlikejoe.com
I will.
and then go to the nutrient section and then you'll see whatever you need.
I will later. And hey, you guys, just give me a second. I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab my charger. My device is starting to take a dive.
So
Cheers.
Eagle, how you been, man? You're growing again.
I am.
And
Fuck.
I created this strain which is a blue dragon, a Burmese Maui Kona. The Burmese Maui Kona are pre-1972 genetics. So when we blew them out, we got four variations. One that was the original Hawaiian Kona Gold, and the other one was the Maui Wowie, and it broke out into four different variations. So I mean, the smell alone makes the sale. It's the most pungent, most fragrant, and most beautiful buds. I mean, huge, big buds. I have some pictures. I'll send them to you uh, of uh, of uh, of some indoor buds that I grew, and they were the size of your arm.
That's awesome. You mentioned you were coming to Michigan, but when exactly are you coming to Michigan?
But sometime I'll be out there soon because like I said, I'm part of this group, and we bought this electrostatic machine, and so we're gonna be they're coming to pick it up this week, and then they're gonna go back to Colorado with a few farms that we have to process with, and then we have like acres in Michigan that we're gonna be out there processing in Michigan with the electrostatic machine. So I will be. I'm leaving tomorrow to go away for a holiday for 2 months. I'm going to Pakistan and I'm going back to Nepal and I'm going back to Thailand and maybe even sneak over to Laos. But I am good. Will be in Asia for the next 2 months. But I'll be back by May the 10th. And sometime this summer, I will be in the Detroit area because uh, uh, we're contracting to do their entire crops of fresh frozen. So they got fresh frozen and they got fresh material. So we're gonna process like a lot, and so we'll be making like the finest hash in the world again in Michigan with this electrostatic machine. I mean, it's so clean. I'll send you some pictures, but I will have that machine in Michigan, and if I have that machine in Michigan, we can hook it up. We can hook it up, bring you over, show you how it runs. You know.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I've stepped up my game by joining
Yeah, really, right?
Chaz and those two forms. I have two licenses. I'm going to have licenses in 3 states and head shop and dispensaries in 5 states. So you know, but yeah, it's unbelievable. Here in Oklahoma, you can go to 10, you can go to 100 shops, and they all sell garbage. Only one, and occasionally they have a whole other market. You know,
So what did you
there is another market here. There's a market of top shelf stuff, and then there's a market of stuff that's a third of the price. You know, because
oh,
this guy's selling weed here in Oklahoma for 300, 200, and 100. So
looks nice.
he's buying pounds for at least 1,000 a pound. He's probably paying for the stuff that's 2,400, 150 an ounce. He's probably paying 2,000, 1,800, 2,000 a pound for that wholesale. if your weed is at a certain level, you can get a top dollar because just some people smoke weed to smoke weed. It doesn't have to get you stupefied, and some people want to have weed that you can that tastes good, smells good, and gets you fucking high. Most of the stuff nowadays don't get you high. What's the point?
So which one you got makes us stupid?
I have some incredible indica lines coming out, with ancient strains, and so this one Hunza line is what I do is I have my Blue Dragon Indian from the Cumberland Valley Pure Landrace, and I breed that sativa with a pure indica from the and I get some outrageous results. That initial breeding of two different land races, you get a hybrid vigor that you never get it only at that time. When you're growing them, you'll see that how the plants grow so fucking fast. They have a vigor to them that you don't normally get. You only get it when you breed two independent landrace strains. So it's
What would you suggest for the outdoor season here in Michigan?
I have stuff that'll finish in September now.
Here in Michigan?
Yeah.
What you got? Tell us about it.
I've got indicas. I've got indica sativa hybrids. I've got pure indicas. Great hash making plants.
See, yeah, we're pretty far north. Our trigger time at the I noticed.
The what?
Where we are, the trigger happens on most strains that I've seen happen. The trigger of flowering in South Vancouver Island is about the third most strains, unless they're an early, and then you can get stuff that'll start in July. But it's a rarity. Most of the varieties that people are growing indoor, if they throw them out, try them outside, they don't flip until like the 21st, 22nd of August is what I've taken note over like a lot of years watching them and seeing many different ones. So it's pretty freaking late to hope to get 8-10 weeks from there up here, because by the time you're into Halloween, the weather sucks and it's raining sideways and moldy. So I found up here you got to kind of have the earlier type of strains that'll actually trigger in the end of July rather than the end of August, and then we'll get them in September. And there's a few of those. It's so I was telling Eagle, maybe you've recognized the name Mighty Mite, Joe. That was an old line that was on
That was an old
BC
line,
coast
but
for a long time.
Yeah. I have indicas that finish fast. You know what I mean? They finish fast, and then
Yeah, that's what you need here.
and then even in Afghanistan, if they have a early snow, like in August snow or early
Yeah,
September, these plants withstand that weather. They're really strong, vibrant strains. So yeah,
yeah, that's we need
you just
that
gotta
here.
know uh, 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 work with strains, and then there's a ways to grow weed where they finish faster too. But these indica lines that I'm bringing in
Hey,
finish
well,
fast.
can you?
Yeah.
So what do you think? What's that technique? Keep them in buckets, small pots.
Well, you have to talk about Chaz. I have a thing there, growlikejoe.com. I have some growing tips there. I have nutrients there, and I'm right now replicating my collection. And pretty soon, by the end of next year, I'll have at least 50 F1s, and then hybrids from pre-1972, and I'll have at least 50 land races from around the globe out. Everything tested.
So
You can buy it on.
you could
You can
send
buy
those
it.
international.
You can buy it from me on the internet. It's all, it's all completely legit.
Yeah,
Goes through the bank. It's just,
yeah, that's what I figured. You can send them international, and
yeah, I
I
can
will
tell
check that
you.
out, Joe. Just because I'd like to read your tips on I'm sure you're going to say to get them to go faster, you put them in a bucket instead of into the ground, things like that. That change of feed or pH at certain key times can give them a shift too, is what I found. But I'd have to say the biggest thing is the temperature and the bucket size. It dictate, and how long the plant spent in the bucket size can dictate when you can get it to trigger with the lighting. Like small buckets planted outside late, you can get away with the small buckets, but so that'll help you speed the things along. But yeah, I'm interested to hear what you're going to say about that. So I will check that out.
I think that by just doing the right lighting, is changes everything. And doing the right lighting, it speeds everything up. Everything happens faster, and everything happens bigger. You know what I mean? So it's like
That lighting tip is excellent. I like that. I'm going to mess around with that.
the that's biology 101. That's like that was invented in 1920 by two American botanists, biologists who realized that there were three different, there was winter, there was three different seasons. There were seasons, and like that. You had summer season. You had some plants that were a long day, short night, like your springtime flowers,
Yeah.
and then they had other plants that finished in September. They were long. They were short day, long night plants, and they finish. They as soon as the night is longer than the day, they go to finish wherever they are. But the longer what you need to get a plant that finishes in October is in Afghanistan, northern climates, they have hash plants that finish in September. You know, and it gets too cold, the weather
Yeah, if
changes.
you're not done.
Those plants are
Well,
alkalinized. They're broken out. They finish in September. You
I find a lot of my plants, if they're not done by September, the latest I can really keep them is till the first, like the 7th, the 5th or 7th of October up here. Then after that, it just starts to get too cold, too wet, most years.
Yeah.
So I'd say I can push them that first week. And you always think, shit, if I could only get another couple weeks, but it never really pans out up here for that. So you have to. It's key to be done in September, really. But you say the indicas for September finish, but I think that it's real important for our climate, our local, to have a touch of sativa to give it some mold resistance for all that rain that we're gonna get. Even right when you don't want the rain, it usually comes right. Week 5, 6 of flower sort of thing. We're starting to see some rain, and then you've got your fingers crossed, right? So you need something that can take. Um, and I was telling other people, I often find the ones that are shaped more like a little umbrella instead of all the leaves popping up, but the ones that kind of go down off the flower, so they shed all the water off. They work well, that phenotype, and to look for that for our local outdoor. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, compared to the spiky looking flower that seems to catch the weather more.
The
I
the
kind of,
It's hard to
I kind of,
grow.
I think
It's
of the
hard to grow
spiky, but I
outdoors
think
on
it's
Vancouver Island. It's just hard to grow outdoors there. There was one guy that grew in
It
that
is. That's what you gotta have.
there was an indica line, what they used to call Northern Lights. That was one line that came from that Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
That was an indica Afghan line. you know.
Yeah, yeah,
It-
I've seen her when I was a kid. That's the one that comes to mind for you, right? That from that's what I always heard, that legend that some guy called the Indian from the islands, and I always figured we were right near these islands. It's either one of the American ones or one of the Canadian
Indian
islands
Jim.
right here, right? So
Indian Jim is what they called him.
All right, guys, I'm gonna grab a cup of coffee.
yeah, that's kind of the legend, right? Like,
Yeah. All right,
yeah.
you guys. You guys have a good night. I'll be calling you. I'm going to be traveling, but I'll be able to do a show with you from abroad. Is that all right? Zoom time.
All right, Joe.
Hey, nice to talk to you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
Take
man.
care, buddy.
Take care, man.
Yeah, it was good to meet you.
Good to meet you too. Now, how do we leave?
Take care, Joe.
All right. We're leaving. Leave meeting.
Well,
Hey, Eagle, I'm gonna run out of juice here on this thing too. I'm trying to charge and talk at the same time, and it's burning through it fast. I'm down to 1%. So if I get cut off, I'm just gonna say my goodbye right now because I'm not sure if it's gonna keep up with the demand of it all. But it was cool.
all right.
I'd like to come on again sometime.
Well, hopefully it won't get out of control the next time, brother. I my deepest apologies. It did
Yeah,
wasn't
oh,
wasn't supposed to roll like that.
It was yeah, that's all good, bro. I'm it's like hanging out at a house, right? Someone knocks on the door. Sometimes it changes the dynamic, and that's all good.
Well, it was kind of funny because Joe was. This is what on my end. Joe had came in a long time ago, and I don't know if you see me, but I picked up my phone and I texted Joe. This isn't a panel episode tomorrow, because he's actually me and him got an episode coming up. It was supposed to be Tuesday. We had one scheduled for Tuesday. So he popped up, and I'm like, okay,
there we go, right?
I have no idea what's going on. He must think this is a Weed Nerd World night. So I texted him. I'm like, no, not tonight.
Well,
And then all of a sudden, my computer fucking went weird, and then I lost control and just lost control of the night. My deepest apologies. That's all I can say, Mark. I'm sorry. I think I just lost him.
gosh.
I can hear you, Mark.
Yeah. Weird.
Oh,
I think for a sec, it's trying like the it keeps freezing up, so I don't know what's going on here. But yeah, I'd love to come back on one time and shoot the shit some more. Maybe after I get the seed swaps going again, and we get some the like it was really fun. We had my friend from one of the Vancouver store. They had a grand opening, and we had Kevin Jodry and the Bubble Man and a few of these kind of weed guys up out talking, and I got over there to see stuff, and that was really cool. And I want to just give a shout out to my buddy Dennis and Mark over at Craft Greenery. They treat me really well and pushing me to keep the guild going, and just that's who I was thinking about, because lately, like, they've been from the shadows, sort of like that's what's been happening this last little bit. You said, well, what's been happening with the guild? I just keep getting shoves from out of nowhere of, hey, what's up? We'll keep going. We love it. Like, this is great. And a lot of positive encouragement to keep making little events happen, because, you know, that's where it is. And yeah, so to get on your show again, it means a ton to me, because it just gives me a chance to put it out there. And like, I think you said it before, put it like, it's there now. Like, let's, okay, that's what we said. Let's see it manifest, and just keep pushing and pushing in the direction that your dream was. And sometimes it morphs along the way, but you keep going. And you know, that's it. Like, because at this point, this is just about people getting together. That is my seed swaps, and that they're free, and so anyone can come and just hang out for the evening. And we've got a real chill host that puts on. He's got the coffee on, and then we can smoke outside, right? So we've got the outdoor spot that we can all session. It's been great. So yeah, it's too bad you're not closer. I'd be like, Eagle, you got to come down, man.
I'd love to. I wish I was closer. Could you please hold up that the
Oh,
flyer again?
oh yeah, that'd be great if I can. I'll try to get it nice and on the screen.
Yeah, I got your
So
big
yeah,
screen.
it's okay, great. It's what do you call it? March 29th, 6 p.m., Hillside Avenue in Victoria. And you can go on my Instagram and check it out. I'll have this posted up there too. And if you're in the neck of the woods, yeah, it'd be awesome. So yeah, I draw Eagle. So that's one of my I did the shirts, and I just I whipped this up in a few minutes, but it was that this a little watercolor. But yeah, I'm all about the old school hand drawn signs and stuff, and bringing that back, because everything out there is just, it's all done up on the computer now. Every graphic you see, and I think that the part of the message of the home grower is the do it yourselfer. You know what I mean? Even if it's a poster or whatever, just get out there and try to do it. And that's why I think you said it had my methods changed, and I don't think so. Because again, I do with what I can do, and I'm not afraid to like to experiment, or to understand that in a certain situation I might need a bit of salt if in one garden, but not in another. Like you might be able to pull it off all organic on one run if I have the pot set up and the size and all these things. But if I don't, I find it's like going to the doctor. If the doctor tells you you're deficient in this, you might want to take a supplement. Well, yeah, take that supplement and move along. And I kind of figure it's like the Frankenstein method, because I have a good, healthy, almost like what they call the living soil, but in smaller pots. But I have all the goodies mixed into my base, and then I give it a shot of newts once in a while, just because they're in such small pots. That I find that I think they need it, because I grow in basically ones and threes, and I have had the big beds, but in my situation, I don't want a big, huge soil bed in the house, and it's just too permanent for me at this point, because I like to get them out, move them, clean it, do all those things, and it can be cumbersome, like the whole daunting too. If you have like the I've seen the horseshoe, right, which works great. You walk into the room, it's a horseshoe of bed, but man, that's some excess humidity, and you're the horseshoe of tent.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you definitely used to have the horseshoe of tents, that's for sure. I miss it. Someday, maybe a rooms. I think we're losing Mr. Mark Leafhill. I always put a Y in there. I'm sorry, Mark. Well, this has been a fun, crazy episode this evening. I appreciate all you guys for hanging out in this episode. 100%. Tomorrow is Weed Nerd World. Friday is the the organic wormhole. This week's guest is Chris Trump. We have a bunch of cool guests coming up in the organic wormhole, that's for sure. Miss Mark, you still there? I don't know. I'm hoping. But yes, I do appreciate all you guys hanging out through the madness this tonight. It was a little hard to keep focus on what was what at some points, but oh, I wanted to throw out too. Thank you, SoCal. I appreciate your brother for trying to jump in and rein in the sanity of the show. I am not in any way mad, shape, or one way or another. I did send you a DM, brother. Hopefully you got it. Uh, well, I think Mark's done. with that being said, I guess I am out here. Again, huge thank you to Mark Leafhill, Vancouver Island Home Growing Guild. I appreciate you, brother. I wish I would have got your sound bite, but if you play this back and watch it again, please know you're always welcome in the We Nerd World. Same link. There he goes. We did lose him, but I'll have to get you on that sound bite on the next episode. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for hanging out this evening through all the madness. If you're just watching this one, go back and watch. It got out of control a little bit. Thank you, Mark, for being such a humble, nice guest to just kind of roll with it. Pretty fucking awesome. Have a great night. Don't forget to do something nice for somebody. Random